KSMR Koffin Radio.
Welcome to another exciting episode of Koffin Radio. I am Heartthrob Rob, and joining me today is Ryan Wombacher, bass player of Bleeding Through and Light the Torch. How are you doing, brother?
Good, man. Good.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming on the show. Light the Torch has just dropped their new single, Wilting In The Light, off the album You Will Be The Death of Me, coming out June 25th via Nuclear Blast Records, man. I love it. I think it's amazing. The stuff you guys have been putting out is freaking incredible. What's been the reception for you guys that you've heard so far? Because, I mean, it just came out 6 days ago.
Yeah. It's been a lot of waiting around, and everything just dropped the other day. So with everything going on in the world, we have no clue. This is a first for us, releasing a song and a video with no tour to back up advertising. But it's been interesting. A lot of kids are around. They're at home.
Mm-hmm.
So, any kind of digital platform, I think, is kind of blowing up. It's kind of the way it is right now.
Absolutely. It's really different. I mean, we've never experienced anything like this in our lifetime. You know, you go from touring and being on tour all the time and, being around, feeling out records, and then all of a sudden it's nothing for a whole year, And now that things are slowly starting to open up, you're just like, let's flood it, let's hit them with something hard. Yeah. And everyone is really liking the new stuff, man. But if you don't mind, I'd like to start at the beginning, if that's okay with you. How did you get into, what kind of music did you listen to growing up, and how did you get into starting to play bass?
See, I'd say musically, I started getting into music in general as a really young kid. My mom was a stay-at-home mom until like middle school, and she'd be cleaning the house listening to Sabbath, Nugent. I mean, I distinctly remember like the Zeppelin albums laying around and a bunch of other stuff, and then country music, like a little bit of everything. So I got my taste from my family. My sister was really into music too. No one played any instruments or anything like that, and I think around 7th grade I had a friend that played bass, and I kind of was into it, so I just started. I went on, let's see, I think I got on my 14th or 15th birthday, I got a bass, and just kind of started winging it. Started with punk rock stuff, Dead Kennedys, Misfits, and then once I heard heavier music, that was the end of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Or the beginning of the end.
Everything went downhill from there. No, that's very cool, man. I mean, right off the bat, like, you're into punk rock, and I mean, when you discover something new like that, it's just like, oh my god, your mind opens. You're used to what your parents play, your sister, and then all of a sudden something like that opens your mind up to something new. And
I liked all the angrier punk music, so as soon as when you're 14 years old and you see a CD in flames that says Hate Breed on it, you're gonna check it out. And there used to be a place in Irvine called CD Listening Bar. You give them your ID and they would set you up with a CD player, and you can just pick CDs all day. There was no time limit. It didn't cost money. I don't know. I mean, I guess kids would end up finding something they liked and buy it. I mean, it was a good way. You could like demo CDs before you bought them.
Yeah.
And that's how I found like so many of my original punk and hardcore that I got into, just seeing album covers and be like, that's a cool skull, why not?
That's a smart idea, like, yeah. I don't think there's places like that exist anymore.
That's why I think album covers serve like such a huge purpose. I mean, it's the art form that catches your eye to what you're listening to. It's two different formats, but one is trying to get you to listen.
It's the cover of the book.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Let me judge this book by its cover,
Yeah, I like books with pictures. So.
So you always got a good picture. Okay, so you're in high school, you're picking up the bass, you start playing punk rock. Slowly but surely, were you in bands before you hit like high school bands, or when did you start doing that?
My first band was, how old was I? I think I was 14 going on 15. I used to get dropped off every Wednesday on the other side of town with a buddy of mine, and he had just moved to the other side of town, and there was a kid playing drums down the street from him, and we started a band, and then we found, I think our buddy Mike, he was in a drama class or something. It was a pop punk band to start, and I barely played bass. I was the worst person in the band to start, and it's just like but I played with everyone that was better than me, so I've always played with people better than me, and that's the only way I've gotten better, is just trying to keep up. that's my way of practicing, I guess.
Steel sharpens steel, man. You got to be around people that are better than you. Okay, so, as things progress even farther now, Bleeding Through is formed in 1999. You join in late 2002?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there?
Somewhere around there.
Right after Portrait of a Goddess? Is that when you get there?
Yeah, so I graduated high school, and then a summer goes by, and I'm getting ready to go into school, and I got a buddy of mine who knows some of the guys in Bleeding Through, and their bass player at the time was also playing in 18 Visions. So when you're playing in two bands, it's hard to tour with both, so they gave him the ultimatum, hey, you got to pick a band. And obviously 18 Visions at the time was bigger, so I came in as the fill-in guy, and then eventually took his spot. That was around 2002, 2003.
Okay, very cool. So that's right when you guys do the Trustkill thing?
That's, a little bit after that. I think I was in the band for just shy of a year before we started recording. I joined the band. My first thing was like 2 back-to-back tours as a fill-in, but I got the gig before the tour was over, and it was just hit the ground running. I had never toured before, and then I toured nonstop. I think we toured like 9-10 months out of the year up until we went on hiatus, broke up, whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll get there for sure. You get there and it's the iconic photo shoot with all you guys lined up, for This Is Love, This Is Murderous. Brandon's holding the heart.
Yep.
That thing is like, I was that age, where I'm in high school. This is the fucking new cool fucking thing for me, This was like people's MySpace backgrounds and stuff. This is this era, What do you remember of that photo shoot?
I remember, there was a lot of white paper, and we're not like a white paper band. We're always doing photo shoots on backdrops that are grungy looking, or walls or whatever, and we saw the concept for the artwork, and we thought it was really cool having the white backdrop. I think that's the only time I ever shot in front of a white backdrop ever, and that was the first and last.
It was cool though, man. That was like a cool little statement. Obviously, you come with, that's like an instant classic, back to back off of the other one.
Yeah, you see it and you kind of know what it is if you're into the music.
Oh, for sure. Like Orange County Hardcore was revamped. You guys, as Bleeding Through, 18 Visions, Throwdown, like everything you guys were doing was just crazy in those years.
Orange County held it down for a long time.
OCHC, baby, Orange County Hardcore. That's how we do.
Crazy how many bands came out of Orange County.
There's the late 90s Orange County scene, but then you guys revamped it. It was alive and well.
The punk scene before that in the 80s.
Oh, of course.
80s.
Fullerton was popping, over here.
Man.
But yeah, it was crazy times. So as you're going along, you're touring off of this album, right? And you said you're there for maybe 2 years or whatever at the time. Is that when the van flip happens?
Yeah, so we were on tour with As I Lay Dying, and Brandon's so good at remembering. If I were to call him right now, he would know exactly what year, what month,
what date.
It's crazy. But yeah, so we were on tour with As I Lay Dying. We're about,
I think it was 2003.
Yeah, it was late 2003 because it was wintertime.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We're leaving Utah, going to Colorado, and that's when we hit black ice on the bridge, and that's pretty much that's when everyone's like, oh, this happens in your life now. That canceled that whole tour. That was the longest we were home after that accident. I think that we were home as a band for years, because that tour continued on, obviously, and then we were going to Europe after that, but it was still starting at the same time. So it was, crash happened, we were stuck in Salt Lake for 4 or 5 days, just crashing on people's floors, and then got the van fixed enough to drive it home. Plexiglass pieces where the windows were drilled into and it smelled like rubber adhesive all around the windows, silicone, it was, and everyone was what, every time it was your turn to drive, it was just white knuckling, everyone's just having flashbacks.
Oh my god, I couldn't even imagine you guys
crazy.
jumping back, dude.
Yeah.
You guys are crazy. You guys were in Sinai Beach's van too at the time?
Yeah.
That sucks.
Sorry, guys.
Crazy times, man. But
I will say though, cool thing about those dudes, we use their van, we don't crash it, we total that thing, and we call them to tell them, and it's just hey, it's like when your dad lets you borrow their car for the first time to go on a date, and you screw it up. We're calling them, We're like, hey man, so we got in a crash. We feel really bad. And the only thing they said, they were just like, are you guys all right?
That's cool.
That's the only thing they said. They didn't care, so I gotta hand it to those dudes. I haven't seen those guys in a long time.
They've broken up, man. R.I.P.
I know.
to Sinai Beach. That was an amazing band too.
I used to run into them occasionally at shows every once in a while, but life gets busy.
I seen you guys at Chain one time. You guys play over there one time. That was pretty cool. The 2004, you have the Glasshouse DVD, which I thought was amazing. What are your kind of memories from, hey, we're going to shoot a DVD?
Initially, it was really, really cool. I never really thought I'd get to do something. Every time something new comes up when you're in a band and you get an option to do something, it's kind of like you never really think that's going to happen. So, especially when you're young and it's happening the first time, you get really stoked. As long as you make smart business decisions, you know, you can just go with the flow. So everything just kind of went. But the setup for the show, we had the soundboard and everything, and we knew the show was going to be really good. So it was kind of like you don't really realize it's being filmed. There's always kids filming and stuff like that. So it wasn't like that like big of like a head fuck or anything. But it turned out cool. A lot of people don't know, but the very beginning of that DVD, the audio is from the record for the first like minute, because when the show started, the pit opened and it hit the soundboard and knocked the sound out.
Really?
So the first minute or two of the live performance is actually the audio from the record, and then it blends into the live show.
That's cool.
That's cool. But yeah, honestly, I don't really remember much of it. It was just kind of like another show, but just like a really, really good Glasshouse show. And I think we managed to ask them to get the barrier to be pushed up to the edge of the stage as opposed to a gap. So there was more stage diving and stuff like that.
That's cool,
I'd
man.
like to do more of that.
To look back, and I mean, you get things immortalized, you know, as they're on camera, you know, people can look back at their home videos. You can look back and be like, damn, here I am 15 years later, you know, look at back, like, look how poppin' this was, you know, we're still going, it's cool.
I had hair.
Where I'm right there with you. You know, in 2004, you guys are hitting OzzFest. What are some OzzFest tour memories for you?
Oh man, that was the first tour bus experience we ever had. We managed...
No black ice on this one?
No. We managed to break down in 3 different buses, 2 or 3 different buses before we made it to the first show of OzzFest. So we barely made it to the first show. There was like a pre-production day where you get like a really quick sound check, and then they save it in the soundboard. But we weren't there for that. So our first show of OzzFest was literally like, put your gear up there and go.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was, I don't know. Bleeding Through always managed to get things done. I think we've maybe canceled 1 show in our entire lives as a band.
Really?
Something like that.
Good for you.
Yeah. So it was just chaos from day one. But one of the cool things was we played second stage, and all the second stage, the buses are all just parked together. You're kind of near the crowd where the parking is, so it's kind of craziness happens every once in a while, people going through the buses. But every night was like playing CeeLo with Slipknot and just like riding around golf carts, and like it was us, Lamb of God, Hatebreed, Slipknot, and then that OzzFest was basically like Orange County hardcore, and there was us and Throwdown, and who else was on there that we knew? Then there were other bands that we had toured with a bunch. Unearth, Every Time I Die. So like,
was It Dies Today on that one? No, I think that was the next year actually.
Yeah, no, they weren't on that one. But so we'd all toured like numerous times together. So now it's just like, oh, OzzFest, we all know each other. So second stage, like the majority of bands on there were like, we already knew each other. And then all the Slipknot dudes and Lamb of God and Hatebreed dudes are always been super cool to us. So it was just a barbecue every day. It was touring a summer camp for adults.
There you go.
What it is. So you can't say otherwise. You got to do some work, but for the most part, you get to do what you want.
That's cool, man. And then, I mean, great memories to even like be like, damn, I played OzzFest. I go from listening to Ozzy to, you know, now I'm playing, you know, playing this festival. That's got to be a crazy feeling.
Ozzy every night.
That was crazy, right?
That was crazy.
2006, you guys come out with The Truth. That same year, you play The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, right?
No.
Not that one?
No, we never did.
Oh, okay, sorry. See, look, that's why
right.
I can't listen to Wikipedia.
That's right. Oh, I love it. I'm just start putting stuff in there.
Yeah, you can make it whatever you want. Whatever you want.
Work it like hot dog on a stick or something.
There you go. The Truth was also an amazing album too, though. Like I loved that one. You guys come back in 2008 with Declaration, but it seems like maybe things are getting tired of you and the relationship between you guys and Trustkill at the time.
Yeah, we were done before Declaration came out. We were all done, physically and emotionally with that record label. It just wasn't serving its purpose, I guess. We always felt like we were touring really, really hard and not seeing anything from it. I mean, hardcore was still more DIY back then than it is now. I mean, there's a lot of things that, you know, you didn't sign anything for, you know, who knows where the royalties are going and stuff like that. You know, you weren't splitting percentages and everything like that. But yeah, by the time Declaration came around, we wanted out, and it was an option. That record was an option, and he took it, so he owed us for it. And I think we finished that whole record before we were supposed to get paid before we left to go record that record, and we drove all the way up to Vancouver without getting paid yet. Borrowed money from a manager, Ryan Downey, at the time. I think our singer's dad we borrowed money from, Marta, like friends. Like, we borrowed money to get that record started, and we didn't see any money from the label until we had finished and we were all home. I flew back a little early for a family member's birthday after I was done with bass tracks and vocals, and like we still hadn't seen any of the money. So we were days away from it. I think we were going to put it out on the internet for free, and no one in our genre had done that yet. And looking back, I really fucking wish we would have done that, because we didn't see much money from, like, I mean, there was never been a huge payout. It's hardcore music. I mean, it's, you do it because you love it. And there's, you can do it for a living if you try hard enough, but you really have to constantly tour. So I really wish we would have put that record out on the internet for free.
It would have been different, man. You guys would have been a year ahead of the curve. It's, you know, like you said, hardcore is just like such a niche audience. As much as it is metal or punk rock, like it serves a smaller subsection of that, you know? And it seems like maybe at the time you guys had outgrown Trustkill or whatever, you know? Or,
we were just ready for something new.
Yeah, you know, you outgrow it, something bigger and better things, you know? But you would have been years ahead if you would have released it like that. But, you know, at least the people got it. At least there wasn't this big old FU on the blogs. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you guys just, fine, motherfucker, here you go.
You could order it.
Exactly. Like, here,
no
motherfucker.
One shelved it. I know bands that happen at major labels, and the label just says, fine, screw you, and they just shelf you. It's hard to find your record anywhere.
Yeah.
We didn't deal with any of that, thankfully.
Let's put you on the shelf for 3 years, and then you guys can go record something. Well, at least you get out of that, and, you know, 2009, is it Rise Records then, for the self-titled, in you know, in 2010? Let's reintroduce ourselves, let's get back out there. I feel like that's what it is, right?
Yeah, we were kind of on a second wind on that one. We gotten Dave Nasty in the band. It was Suicidal Tendencies, Infectious Grooves, No Use for Name. He was awesome. I really liked touring with him. He was older than me. He'd been doing more music than I had, so, like, I don't know. What do you know, when you got guys in bands that are older than you, not just a few years, but like, you know, 5 to 10, someone who has experience that can give you pointers, kind of thing. You're like, I think I even talked to him when I joined Light the Torch as WNO, like asked him like what I should do or something, and he gave me pretty good advice: just do it till you can't. So I think having him in the band kind of refreshed stuff. He brought solos. That wasn't a big thing in Bleeding Through until the Declaration-ish era. And then the next record after that, that's when Dave wrote a handful of songs on the record and did that one in New York. And that was, we stayed in a house next door to the studio, and it would wake up in the morning and cross the driveway into the studio door and then back in the house all day.
Damn.
It was just cold and snowing. And it was weird. It was a good time though.
Stir crazy, but it gets you, you know, popping.
And I mean that I think that record kind of sounds like the situation we were in. It was kind of cool. It is one of the fewer times that we fly somewhere to record and stay. And a lot of bands, they do stay local sometimes. I love the fact that Light the Torch is done in LA. You know, you can go home at night and stuff like that. But it was cool being in a different place, and it's all, you wake up in the morning, there's nothing to do, so you go in the studio and you work.
Absolutely. And, you know, like you were saying earlier about, you know, the other guy helping out, you know, with things. It's nice to have someone who's been around the loop, who, you know, you can pick their brain and see what they really have. Like, seeing, like, hey, man, you're not only seeing, like, giving me advice of what could happen, right? You've probably met or known people that have made these decisions and lived with them 5 or 10 years now and been like, hey, you know what I should have done, or this really helped me, but I need a little bit of this. And he's there for that kind of advice, which I think is very cool. You have The Great Fire in 2012, which I think was another amazing album. How'd you like that one?
That one was the first, let's see. That one was when Bleeding Through became really busy individually. Everyone, that was like when we knew things were starting to slow down. Everyone was super busy. Trying to book tours was really hard. You gotta get 6 people's, schedules to line up. Brandon's got a gym to run. Derek's got a family and a job. Brian's got, I wasn't sure if he had a kid coming on the way at the time, but he wasn't touring with us anymore. That was the first record that songs were written with not everybody in the same room at the same time. That'd be like a couple people in the room at a time. No rehearsing of songs like in an actual band room, because we come from the era of you show up for band practice X amount of days a week. Sometimes it'd be 4 or 5 days a week, and you practice for 4 or 5 hours, write songs, you memorize everything before you leave, and then everyone goes home and works on stuff the next day. We came from that era, and this was the first time I would show up and it'd just be me and our producer Mick, and it'd be like, okay, I'm gonna do the bass lines over the song, or I have an idea for a vocal melody, I'm just gonna put it down, and then when Brandon gets here, whenever, he can work on it or delete it or change something. That was a lot of that going on. That was the first time, so it was very different, but that's kind of what you do now, so it was like getting used to doing that.
Yeah, things change a little bit. I feel like everyone grows too, It's just harder to put things together, like you said. And I think the next year is kind of when the breakup happens, the hiatus, the long weekend, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, we were, like I said, it was really, really hard to get everyone to book shows together. And it just, we started the band, I think the youngest person in the band was like 19. And now we're all into our 30s. People are having kids, people are getting married, so lining stuff up, and it just got to the point where it's like, we can't do this full time, we're not going to. Other people have interests, and people are moving. I think Marta had moved up north already. Derek lives out in the desert. It's only like 2 hours away, but it was along the times where trying to get something booked and everyone could do it, but one person couldn't. Or 2 people couldn't do it this month, but they're free this month, and someone else. And I can't remember. I think it was Brandon that said it first, but it was kind of along the lines. He wanted to focus on the gym, and everyone was kind of on the same page at the same sense. But obviously, I was still wanting to tour. I literally have not stopped. I joined Devil You Know before Bleeding Through was over, so it was. I would say, looking back at it, it's definitely more of a hiatus. We had every intention of coming back, and when I mean that, I don't mean as a full-time band. It was just like a hobby. Like, we're done as a full-time touring band. Like, we don't do this for a living anymore. We have our own lives, but we still love doing this. We don't want to stop just because we can't make a living doing it. So we're all, individually responsible for ourselves. So if you got time to do the band, cool, let's keep doing it. And it's kind of right after that record is when it happened, and it's kind of, we still hit each other up and write a record, and is what it, that's what the last record was pretty much we wanted to do a record for fun. We're not done doing it, we just don't do it full time anymore.
There's nothing wrong with taking a little break, you know what I mean? Getting your bearings straight, and then heaven forbid, every 3 to 5 years, we want to just put it out, do a little tour for you guys, mash out to the, and then just do it, do what we do. I think it's crazy. But like you said, in maybe late December 2013 is when you joined Light the Torch, previously known as The Devil You Know. Mm-hmm. Yep. So obviously, now it's a metal supergroup. You're joining the likes of, is it Francesco or Francesco? Of, previously of All Shall Perish, Howard Jones of Killswitch Engage and Blood Has Been Shed. Now it's like, okay, let's put this together. This is crazy. How did it come about you joining the band?
I was up in Big Bear on a hunting trip with a friend of mine, and we had just rolled into town. We'd been out for like a couple days. We were camping, and we came back into downtown and got phone service. And my phone was like a couple texts, a couple phone calls, and a missed email or a missed voicemail. So, okay, and check the message, and it's Mike Gitter, who used to work for Metal Blade. and then he was managing the band at the time. And I had met him just over the years of touring and with other bands that we had toured with, and so we knew each other. And he'd gotten my phone number, and it was basically like, hey, what's up? It's Gitter. Heard that Bleeding Through is on the outs. Like, people were catching wind that we were, like, going to be done.
They must have read on Wikipedia.
Yeah, and, seriously. And he basically said, like, hey, I've got an opportunity for you. Why don't you give me a call back? So I called him, and it was literally just like, I was just interested to see what the option was. I really wasn't sure if I wanted to tour anymore. And told me what it was, and he couldn't give me a whole bunch of information. I told him I was interested, but I needed to know more, and told him what I was up to. So I'm like, give me a call this weekend. He called me, and I talked to the drummer at the time, and we got like an audition pretty much, but they couldn't release any of the music. Wow. So I had to basically, they needed a bass player that could sing backups. So they were purposely looking for a bass player that could sing, so it wasn't just any bass player. They called a handful of people, and someone that knew someone gave my phone number to Gitter. He called me and set it up, talked to the drummer. But yeah, I just went into a studio in LA and went to like a lockout rehearsal and met the guys for the first time. And it was the drummer and the guitar player at the time, and super fucking awkward. And it was like, all right, here's the song that you don't know. Learn this riff, and here's the melody that goes over it, and give it a shot. And obviously they're aware, like, you gotta practice. So I'm like, all right, let's get awkward.
Yeah,
it was fucking awkward, but it was cool.
That's great.
I got my point across. I really didn't think I was gonna get the gig. It was kind of, they asked me, so how do you feel about touring? And I'm like, well, we've had a bad crash. We've crashed a few times, and I don't like touring in the wintertime. And I don't do vans anymore. Like, we did our fair share of touring in a van. I'll do bandwagons and tour buses, but since then we've done every fucking vehicle under the sun. But that was that. Left, and didn't hear back for like a month, and then got a phone call and said I got the gig, and straight to Australia.
Wow.
To go do Soundwave Festival. So that was really cool. We were playing directly under Avenged Sevenfold, second to last on the whole fucking festival, and no one knew who the hell we were. Didn't even have a record out. We had one single out, and it was the demo version of the single.
Oh my god.
So that was an interesting ride.
That's crazy.
Came home from that and had a month off, and we had some rehearsals, and then we went straight on a tour with Black Label Society and Down and Butcher Babies.
That's crazy, man. I didn't even think about it. Like, dude, I got into like a car accident like 5 years ago or whatever, Mm-hmm. I'm sitting on the freeway and someone crashes into me. Like, just for a minute, like, just I'm chilling and then someone bangs into me, I'm just never that kind of guy. But all of a sudden, like, when I'm driving, when I stop, I'm like, oh yeah, dude,
yeah.
It like shocks me. So
PTSD, man.
I was just gonna say, bro, you must have had that, or you must have that. I mean, for something as chaotic and crazy like that to happen to you, that's some real stuff, man.
I think anybody's been in an accident has got a little bit of PTSD. But I think touring in a band, chances are that you're wearing a seatbelt are very slim. You're on a bench seat. I mean, we everybody on tour, I think, knows just about one band that's crashed in some way, shape, or form. Some people have lost band members. Some people have just injuries. Like, you never know. But yeah, let's see. The second tour we did as Devil You Know was with Lacuna Coil in the States, and our bandwagon broke down outside of Thunder Bay, Canada. So we had to do the rest of the tour in a van, and that was the first time back touring in a van.
Really?
In the snow.
10 years.
Yeah. Bleeding Through had done... No, we hadn't done our final tour since... Yeah, so that was one of the first times back in a van touring. We did the last 2 weeks, and man, I had to sit up. I had to sit shotgun. I had to have a seatbelt on, like, sweating bullets, just nervous.
That's crazy.
It was super shitty, but... Tour's tour, I guess.
You got to make it through, man, and you obviously did. With Light the Torch, I feel like it's more of a metal band. Obviously, you guys are really riffing it and doing your thing. What other freedoms or differences do you feel like that you have with Light the Torch as compared to Bleeding Through?
That's a good question. There's quite a bit of difference. So with Bleeding Through is much darker. Mm-hmm. Over the years, we went more and more black metal, mm-hmm. more synth, more blast beat, less hardcore, more metal. And we kind of made a conscious effort. I remember we knew we weren't going to be a radio band. It just wasn't our style. We did a few songs that were singy. We have singing in it. I think it's kind of funny. People make fun of Bleeding Through. Now they got singing on their record. Literally, Dust to Ashes, before Portrait of the Goddess, the first record, has singing on it. And I just never understood why people would make fun of it. And we obviously didn't listen to it. But yeah, it's we kind of made a conscious effort, especially after Declaration. Like, the songs just got heavier. We didn't care. We weren't trying to be a radio band. The possibility of the band getting bigger, like, we had our heyday. Like, you can only be a band so many times. Like, the biggest bands in the world can keep putting out records and they still want to hear just the hits. They don't want to hear your record you put out in 2013 when you're a band from the 70s. Like, the older you get, the more they want to hear. Kids want to hear the first couple records.
Yeah.
But
even though your guys' other stuff is great, you know, people do want to hear what they remember.
Oh yeah, totally.
You know,
they want to hear Love Lost. They want to hear the songs that they remember when they first got into it. Your first two records, for the most part, I mean, there's some bands that don't get big till like their third or fourth, but most of the time when a band gets big, all their old stuff up to the record that made them big is like what everyone wants to hear. But we made a conscious effort to be a little more black metal synth style and just kind of do whatever came to our heads. And then with Light the Torch, it's like we do a little bit of everything. There's down tuning, there's songs that are all singing, there's songs that are all screaming. Like, it all works, and we put a bit of everything so it all evens out. But Light the Torch is much more of like rock metal as opposed to Bleeding Through being more of like a darker metal band. So I get to do a little bit of both. If Light the Torch playing for too long and the songs are a little too melodic, there's always going to be a time where I'm going to get to go play with Bleeding Through. And then when it's like, try hearing blast beats, man, then I know that when I go into with Light the Torch, it's like it's completely different. So fulfillment wise, I get to play two different kinds of music, and they're both in the wheelhouse that I like to do. So it's a lot of fun.
That's really cool. And I mean, dude, hearing Howard Jones, you know, over any kind of metal is just great to me. You know, I think he has the most amazing voice.
Oh yeah,
I love what he's got going on.
Husband Shed Days was insane.
Oh, for sure. Spirals, bro, that's my jam right there.
Yeah. And Bleeding Through did Hellfest 2003.
Oof.
And Blood Has Been Shed played that as well. I think Howard had to fly in from OzzFest or something. I can't remember. But I remember seeing him play on that. I saw Blood Has Been Shed play a couple times. One at South by Southwest in Texas years and years ago.
I never got to see them play. You're lucky, dude.
It was awesome.
That's crazy. So in April 2014, the debut album, The Beauty of Destruction, comes out. Great album. It's got 7 Years Alone on it. 7 Years Alone. Mm-hmm. You have the producer Zeus. Mm-hmm. How'd you like working with him?
That's right when I got hired.
Okay.
To be I was a hired gun at the very beginning when I am an original member.
Uh-huh.
But at the very beginning, I was just hired. Me and the other guitar player, Roy, at the time. We were hired on... The record was already done, and then they were looking for band members. As Devil You Know, I was just a hired gun. And as soon as they finished the second record with Devil You Know is right when I got asked to be a member of the band.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's how it is. Like, those guys were kind of like doing that thing. Like you said, you came in as a hired gun, or, you know, they're like, hey, we can't give you the music. Like, because it's like the two guys that are really like the core started it, excuse me. Like, you know.
The original drummer and Francesco were the two guys that started the band as Devil You Know and wrote all the stuff. And then they contacted Howard to see if he was interested, and then he wrote all the lyrics. So the band was a band before I joined it. It was recorded. I just became someone because I became the bass player because I could sing as well, so they needed someone to do all the backing vocals that were on the record. Got the gig, toured for it was like 2 years, something like that, and then I got the offer to be the full time. But that's kind of how it went. We got two guys that are writing the music, Howard. So it's a 3-member band, and then they outsourced. A lot of bands you see, even the front man who you think is like the leader of the band.
Not at all.
Nope.
Yeah.
Like,
but don't at the same time, don't not put yourself over, man. Like, you fucking are, you rock out. You know what I mean? You got it going on. You can sing. You play bass. Like, it's not. They didn't draw your name out of a hat.
Oh no,
you know what I mean.
I got the gig fair and square. I mean,
things
but,
are different, like because these aren't the kids that grew up around the corner from you that you've known since you were 17, 18, 19.
Oh yeah,
it's
I'd
different.
known
now.
Howard kind of.
We're professionals.
I had never met Francesco. I'd never met the drummer John at the time. I'd never met any of them. I had known Howard briefly, like we knew each other, say hi, but we weren't like good friends or anything. So it was, I mean, I auditioned. There were other people that auditioned. I got a phone call. I actually ran into a guy that said he auditioned for the band after I had already gotten the gig, like at a Subway.
No.
I mean, who knows? I want to say that he...
It was me.
Yeah,
I
want
tried
to
out.
say that he played... I could be talking out my ass, but I think he played bass for Death by Stereo.
Really?
After, before, or during when he was auditioning. I could be totally talking shit. I don't know. But for some reason, I was working at a job at the time, and I was at lunch with my boss, and he was asking me about it. And the guy turns around, he's like, I auditioned for that band too, man. Like, no way, small world. So, I mean, I don't think he'd be lying. So
no, that's crazy. And you guys put that out through Nuclear Blast. How do you guys like them? I mean, that's different. They're huge in Europe. They're fucking metal as fuck. You know what I mean?
So far,
How do you
so
like them?
good, man. They've been really good to us.
They have a machine.
Yeah,
they're a machine.
It's they were pretty nervous when we changed our name. Told them what was going on, because that's the death of a band. Like,
oh yeah.
You change your name, it doesn't matter how long you've been together. People just won't get it. Like, there are some people who follow along, like, without a hiccup, and they know exactly what's going on. And there are people that all it takes is to not post anything on social media for a month, and they think you broke up. Like, I remember back in the day, you'd leave go on tour in Europe, and you just wouldn't be relevant in the States for like 2 months. And people were like, where the hell's this band? Why aren't they touring? Be like, they're on tour right now. Go online and look at their tour dates. They're playing every day.
Yeah.
Just because they're not in your town, coming in town in a month or something, that's they're not thinking about you anymore. So that's why you constantly have to stay on tour.
They haven't made an IG post in 2 days, man. They must have broke up.
That's the world we live in now.
R.I.P. Okay, and then you guys have They Bleed Red, an album in 2015. It's got The Way We Die, Stay of Execution. What was doing that like? What was that album for you?
That was...
I mean, it wasn't political, but I feel like it has that...
That was right after that record was finished is when they asked me to be a member of the band. I came to the studio a handful of times, but it was more along the lines of crunch time, and we just got to get this thing done. They did offer if I wanted to do, but I think I was working at the time. I was still just a hired gun. So when you're a hired gun, you only get paid to play on tour, and that's it. So you're the 1099.
Cool.
Yeah, you're a gig worker.
Yeah.
A lot of musicians are gig workers. That's the whole pandemic screwed everything up. But yeah, I would pretty much just kind of like hang out there. I didn't really have a big part to do with that record either. And then while I was there one of the days, we were at the producer's house. He has a studio in his backyard in the garage, and I was just hanging out, and that's when they asked me if I wanted to be like a full-time member of the band. So
it was like a mob thing. You had to put the card on your hand and burn it.
I mean, I had to sign contracts.
There you go. That's the same thing, huh?
That's their version of blood.
For sure. And like you were talking about earlier, they have to change the name. You guys go from Devil You Know to Light the Torch. That was because of the previous
So we're...
I don't know what you can and can't go into.
I'll just say what I can.
Yeah.
So we're Devil You Know. We're on tour. We get an offer to do a headlining tour directly into 2 back-to-back Hatebreed Devil Driver tours. And we say yes, of course. We're on tour with Atreyu and Cold Chamber at the time.
What a lineup.
Yeah. And it's Cold Chamber, Fear Factory, us and Atreyu, I think. Or... no, that was 2 different tours. Jesus Christ. There was an Atreyu tour, and then there was a Fear Factory Cold Chamber tour. That's what it was. We were on one of those tours, and we were in a van. It was a short tour. And a drummer at the time, he had to go back to Australia to work. He had some friends he was working on like a TV show or something, production. And we weren't making a ton of money at the time. We're just like, it's interesting. You see bands on tour, you see them on the internet, you see pictures, like most of those dudes, unless it's a money-making band, like they all have jobs. They all go home. A lot of the times they make less than the average person, or they make that decision to tour and they don't get married or like, you know, there's certain things. It depends on how you live your life.
Mm-hmm.
I choose to live a life a certain way so you can afford to tour, and other people have more interests. And this is what I want to do. And
Fucking rebel, dude.
I don't know about that.
Living it, man. Pushing
living the dream.
Living the dream, brother.
But, I don't even know where the fuck I was going with that. What was that?
Changing the name. The guy has to leave.
Yeah. So he went back to Australia, and we get the offer for the States tour. He already knows he has to be back by a certain time. Doesn't make it back, so we get a fill-in drummer at the time, which was our friend John, who used to play drums for Devil Driver.
Mm-hmm.
And he filled in for the headliner, but he had to be somewhere else after the headliner, so we need to get another fill-in. But we're telling our original drummer he's got to be back in time. Long story short, doesn't work out. Dude's nowhere to be found. We can't emails, like we just can't. So we move on, and we get Nick, who used to play for Trivium, to fill in for us for a while.
Sick.
And we literally just were like, hey, we have to keep going as a band, so get back to us when you can. Toured. And then it just got to the point where we just decided to, if we're gonna do this, we need to move on.
Yeah.
We need answers right now. And then it got to the point we want to change the name. If you want to change your name, you gotta have people sign paperwork. Everyone has to agree. So we decided to change the name instead, and we changed the sound. We wanted to like purposely make it a point. Okay, you've been playing heavy metal your whole life. I'm interested in doing this for the rest of my life. I don't want to. There's certain compromises you can make. I don't want to write I don't want to play in songs that I don't like, but you got to compromise a little bit. Thankfully, the way we compromise, we're super stoked on it. But we basically changed the name out of necessity, and it ended up working to our advantage. And we just kind of hit the ground running. It was all kind of like a legal dispute, and it ended up working in our favor really well.
Fuck yeah.
I remember we were almost finished with the record, and we didn't have a name yet. And yeah.
How'd that come about?
We were going over names, going over our LLC corporation names of what we could do and all this stuff, and kind of light the torch. So with starting as a new band or as a new name, or starting as a new band, like people, it's a completely different sound. So we can't even use like Devil as like formerly known as, but it's a completely different band, just the same members.
That's sick, dude.
It was fun. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was nerve-wracking. I mean, it was like, are we self-sabotaging ourselves? How long is this do-over gonna last? It may not pick up. Like, you never know.
Other bands might crumble for that kind of stuff.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, thankfully we hadn't been a band for that very long. We only had 2 records out, and we hadn't done a ton of tours. But if that was a band that had been successful and it had been really hard. But record label was behind us. Once they heard the music, they were really stoked on it, and it was starting over from scratch. It was fucking nerve-wracking.
Oof.
Yeah.
Well, you guys come up with some crazy stuff, because 2018, the Revival album comes out. The sound is different, but like I wrote that down, and obviously that's because we're a new band now. This is new. Yep. We're different. We're gonna switch it up. That's cool, man. That's badass. I think there's some crazy stuff on there, and I wrote that down, that the sound is different, but like that's so cool that like now I get that background story of like the reason why.
Yeah.
You guys took it from scratch.
We made a conscious decision to write songs differently. Francesco fucking is a writing genius. That dude just writes the coolest, catchiest stuff, and he'll just like, I have an idea, and he sends us an email of a demo, and I mean, he went to school for this stuff. I mean, the demos that he sends me, like, hey, what do you think about this riff? I think it kind of sounds like, and it's like synth. He's played the bass on it. He's played both guitars. Like, it's fucking crazy. And you're like, oh, that's an idea? You mean a finished song? Like, he's like, well, I gotta tweak this, and I'm just like thinking, like, these are better than some of the shit that I hear that people give us back when people used to hand you physical demos. And it's like, nothing against them, but it's just like, this is your demo? Like, this is some kid's like dream album. Yeah. But he's just like scratch ideas.
That's crazy.
So having him in the band, that guy's a writing machine. I've never been a huge strong writer. I've always, bass player. I'll play what you need me to. I have my shining moments, but yeah, he just go from writing Devil stuff to writing Light the Torch stuff in just like a couple months. Just like make a conscious effort to change it. We didn't want to like just go, well, what's catchy?
Yeah.
We wanted to write something that's catchy, but still, like, a perfect example would be, like, God I Deserve.
Mm-hmm.
That's the prime example of, like, we wanted to stay heavy, but we wanted to write stuff that's melodic. And it just turns out that Howard came to the studio with vocal ideas that were almost all singing. And we kind of had a feeling we wanted to do that. It'd be really cool if, like, most of the songs had no screaming in it, just to see what would happen. And sure enough, like, from day one, we've been on the same page. And being in the studio is just really, it's a really easy flow state. Working with the producers, and it's been awesome.
That's cool, man. As things are getting along, going great for you, like you say, then all of a sudden, this pandemic hits, you know? How have things really changed up for you since then because of the band? You know, obviously you just released Wilting In The Light, but prior to that, it's kind of been, it's quiet because everybody had to be quiet. What was it like for you?
So...
and for the band?
So we finished this new record in just about January, February-ish. Finished the drums down in San Diego. I mean, we're like a couple weeks away from leaving for tour with Killswitch. We almost decide that we're going to wait and finish the drums till after the tour, or finish whatever after the tour, but we decide let's just do it. We all go down to San Diego and we stay there for the weekend, and we get drums done. Record's wrapped up. It's done. Thank you. Signed, sealed. Now we're just waiting for mixes and mastering, which took a while. So we're done. There's nothing we can do. Francesco's working on artwork and stuff like that. He did all the artwork for the album.
God, that guy can do everything.
Dude's a machine, man. That guy impresses me. I have so much respect for that guy. He's next level. It's like one of those guys where, like, you explain and he figures it out. Just like, oh, here's how you do something. And you just need to show him how it's done, and then he picks up and just goes. Dude learned how to do, like, programs on computers, like graphic programs and design programs and everything. Where was I going with that?
You do the things with the drums. You're about to go on tour.
Yeah.
Pandemic.
So the start of the pandemic. So, see what I mean? I trail off. So we all agree we're done. We decided to finish everything. So now we fly out our fill-in drummer at the time, and we're getting ready to leave for this tour. We have all of our gear is in a different state, and we fly there. Bandwagon picks us up, and we go into a venue in Nashville for pre-production. We do a day of rehearsals as set up like we would live, and this is the first time we've gotten to practice with each other and all that. So rehearsal. Next day, tour starts. We play one show, play a second show, then we have a day off. On that day off, this is March. I left my house March 8th. March 11th, we knew the tour was over. I have our tour manager gets us flights home that night. I mean, he killed it immediately. My flight's in the morning, the next morning. Get a ride to the airport. And my first flight to Chicago, I get to Chicago, and then flights are canceled. Sitting around, and I'm like, this is when stuff's starting to get bad. Like, people had started hearing about, like, coronavirus, and, like, I mean, some people paying attention since, like, November of the previous year, but
definitely not me.
January, I'm so oblivious. So January rolls around. We're in the mix of the record. We know stuff's going on, but we don't know how bad it is. But we leave for tour, and my girlfriend's telling me, like, oh yeah, I just reading the news, and, listening to this, and things are starting to shut down. And you talk to your parents, who text me like, yeah, have you seen all the shutdowns? They're crazy. And then we hear, as the tour starts, Seattle cancels. Okay, Portland cancels. Okay, well now we have a big gap between Canada to San Francisco, so there's already days, and it gets to the point where so many shows start getting canceled that you can't afford to stay on the road.
No.
You have to play every day to make money. So
we're not going to drive everywhere for 6 shows.
We can't wait around a week at a time to play one show at the end of the week somewhere, and it potentially could get canceled the day before. So we're just starting to catch wind of everything. Then we get a phone call, tour's over. So we're like, motherfucker. And this is a first for everybody. So tour manager gets us all our flights home, crew flight home, our crew that loads our gear to the rehearsal the practice or the storage space that we have out in the other state, and we all go home. I finally get my connecting flight from Chicago. I get home and even just landing in LAX, it's already weird. I try to get an Uber home, and I have my bass gear, like my rolling, it's a double case.
Yeah.
So you have to find a vehicle that's big enough to put it in there. So I have to get like an Uber XL. And everyone's already got like the plexiglass up and like wearing gloves. And I'm coming home, leaving for tour where no one's wearing masks. Then you come home, and all the Uber and Lyft protocols are in order.
You better have that mask on, is what they're saying.
Things are starting to shut down. I get home on the 12th, and what was it, the 13th or 14th of March, everything shut down. And it was for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then that just kept going and going and going, and man, it was so this is the longest I've ever been home since I graduated high school. Now it's like tenfold. And then the longest I was ever home was like 6 months. That was during like the Devil You Know years. But yeah, it's been a weird year. We were told as soon as all the shutdown started, we get a group call with management, and they're just like, no clue what's going on. Nobody does. CDC doesn't know what's going on. We know the virus, this and that, and all the speculations start coming out, and we're pretty much told within the first couple weeks that just be prepared to probably not tour for all of 2020. And it was March.
Damn.
Yeah. So, you just start thinking like, okay, well, the only way you really make money is touring. So that's why bands tour so much. I mean, it's the way you make money. And we can't tour. So we're like, well, what the fuck do we do? Thankfully, we had recorded a record, with digital media, sound exchange and stuff like that. And like, so many people I know were going on unemployment because almost everyone I knew that was working a job, that was it.
Oh, yeah.
And since I knew for a fact we weren't going on tour, I didn't have anything going on, for me, 2020 was just kind of like, okay, well, what do I want to do? So I have a shit ton of different hobbies, and I just kind of it's the first time in my life that I haven't like had to think about music. Like the record was done, there's no writing, like everything's out of our hands.
Wow.
I'm not doing the album artwork, that's Francesco, so he's working on that. So it was kind of just like, just hang out, hurry up and wait. It was weird. But the pandemic, basically, for people who weren't working for like a month or two or longer or whatever, like, it's kind of like being in a band. You go and you work, but then when tour's over and you go home, that's it. Like, you have your own personal life before you leave. So I'm used to having like a couple weeks to a month free between tours. Mm-hmm. But like after like a few months, it was just like, holy shit, like this just keeps going. It was so weird. Everyone I talked to were like, this is so weird. Can't believe. And then there were the rumors going around, oh yeah, maybe by December they're gonna start touring again, like all the pipe dream bullshit.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't have any speculations either. I had no conspiracy theories. I'm just kind of like, whatever. I don't know what to believe these days,
Not
There's
at all.
so much false information that I was kind of like, I'm skeptical about everything, and I'll just kind of like see how it goes.
Yep.
So,
play it by ear.
wear your mask when you go into a store and eat your food at home. And
Yeah.
it's been over a year now. It's fucking crazy, man.
That's crazy. What kind of hobbies have you been getting into? I know you like hunting, like you said.
I like to hunt. I like to
Multimedia?
fish. I paint a lot. I do. It's called Hell America Customs. It's a custom painting. Like, I do sign painting. I do a little bit of leather tooling. I paint motorcycles, paint guitars, anything. I like to do a lot of like framework, like sign painting, reverse glass gold leafing for like barbershop signs, window signs, stuff like that. So I had plenty of time to do that. Hunting, fish. I made it for dove season this year. Limited out for my first time.
I see you guys go fishing a lot too.
Go
Huh? That's like
fishing a
your
lot.
thing, huh?
Yeah, I like to. I've always really liked fishing, but the past like 2 years especially, I've gotten really into trout fishing, hiking into places and do like real small stream
That's
fishing
cool.
where you can't just drive up to. Like, I'll go up to Kern River, and there's an area up there. all these mountains up there. They're all connected by service roads with these dirt road spurs that go like 20 miles, and you just don't see anyone for days. And even as long as you're above a certain elevation, you can have dispersed fires wherever you want. You can just camp wherever you want. So we'll hike in and camp if we're in an area like, you know, squirrel hunting or dove or quail or something like that. And then where I live, we're only 30 minutes to a national forest from right here, so there's deer hunting right down the road.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think it because you're in Orange County, but
I love it.
that's what and then I surf a lot, but yeah, mainly fishing this year. There's been a lot of places I've checked out. So I used 2020 was my break from playing music and just exploring more California.
Learn to love, you know, what you love again. You know what I mean? Finding out what you can do.
I mean,
you haven't been home in fucking forever.
I'm never home for the summers.
Yeah.
If I am, it's not, you know, for the exact time I want. It's hard to book backpacking trips, getting permits. You know, like this year I got to backpack in Yosemite the first week it reopened after being closed for months. Me and my buddy who set up the trip, we saw a couple people in the valley, and that was it. I think we saw 2 other people out on the trails the entire time. We backpacked up like 10,000 feet. Fish, caught a shit ton of fish. I never have time to do that, and it was in July, so the weather was perfect.
Nice.
It's too hot to hike out here in the trails in the summertime. There's no water out there, so you got to bring
gallons.
Yeah, I mean, I got to bring a gallon of water with me if I go hike in and camp for the night, just because I have my dog with me and cooking food. Like,
oh yeah,
it takes at least a gallon of water just to go a couple miles because it's so damn hot out there. So yeah, I just hung out. It was awesome. I'm not gonna lie.
That's cool, man.
Everyone was worried and stressing out, and I just kind of like, I was real mellow, just saved my money and did all this stuff that was free, man. Just camping, fishing, hunting, hanging out, barbecuing.
That's sick,
really
bro.
only hanging out with my immediate family and girlfriend and like 1 or 2 close friends. That's it, really.
Low key.
Oh yeah, did a lot of stuff to the house. Me and my girlfriend fixed up a lot of stuff.
That's dope, man.
Home improvement. Worked on my garden.
It's popping. You got it going on, baby. You got it going on.
I was home long enough to grow broccoli.
Oh, damn. You was really out here.
Yeah, shows you how long I've been home.
There you go, man. That's dope. What can you tell us about the new album, You'll Be the Death of Me?
It's called You'll Be the Death of Me.
Oh, okay.
Album cover's blue.
There you go.
There's songs on it.
All right. You're blowing me away here.
Hey, man. Too much information. So the release the announcement was on for Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
And it came out with a music video for Wilting In The Light.
That was a sweet ass video too,
Thank
dude.
you. That was fun.
You got the same light right here behind us.
It was like a whole bunch of nothing all year, and then boom, 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 boom. You got photo shoots. You got this. The next weekend you got video shoot. Yeah, you know. Howard's flying out, we're getting other people flying out, and this is happening, and then it just goes radio silence again. Like it's the whole like
hurry up and wait.
It's any job. Like if you need something from them, it takes a minute, but if they need something from you, it is email after email. Like it's go time. So it went from hanging out all summer to like, oh shit, yeah, we played in a band, forgot about this, and things are starting to pick back up. So yeah, we recorded the video. We have that song coming out. We've got some surprises coming up before the album releases, and there's some raffle stuff going on in the works with the label and through our socials and stuff like that. And record comes out June 25th. There's pre-order all on the internet.
Nuclear Blast, baby.
Nuclear
Get on there.
there. They got some really cool merch options.
Yeah, you guys
they
do.
got fucking socks and sweatpants.
The armbands.
I want the sweatpants, man.
Those are cool.
Yeah.
You got everything.
Yeah, night pants.
There you go.
But yeah, and I'm pretty stoked. This Francesco did the layout for the vinyl as well, and we're getting a lot of cool colors, like splatter, like pink and blue splatter, blue and white splatter.
Give me something different. That's cool.
Yeah, and I think there's 3 or 4 different options for the vinyl, depending on where you buy it, and they're all limited. So it's cool. It's fine. It took forever. Like we'd been talking about like, hey, when you want to do the podcast, I'm like, there's so much I want to talk about, but there's just nothing to talk about I can yet.
Yeah.
So finally, when we hooked back up and I had gotten the email, you messaged me, and then literally hours before that, we got the email saying like, hey, this is what's happening. And then the release date up. So it worked out perfect just a couple days after the release.
Hell yeah, man. That's cool.
Yeah, I haven't done, this is the first interviews I've done starting. Howard gets a lot of them. But yeah, so this is like just like the calm before it all.
That's crazy. Well, I know you guys are gonna be able to tour off it. You know, I think things are opening up. So when things happen, what's the like? Do you have like a ritual or anything that you do before you play? Anything crazy like that?
Now it's stretching.
Yeah, there you go.
Almost 40.
Yeah.
Still young, but I don't feel it anymore. Dude, 2020 was interesting. A lot of people, like Francesco hurt his back.
God, you haven't had played a show in over a year.
Oh yeah, our last show is in March 10th.
Wow, that's crazy.
And it was on the Killswitch tour. That got postponed to I think around September. And then we have a couple festivals that we got booked for, and they're all on the East Coast. So, and there's one in Alabama. So that's pretty much it's starting to pick back up, but I think it's going to be a lot of uphill. I think I can going on, and venues will sell out too quick, and they'll need to push them. And I know some people's a friend of mine, he's playing drums in a band. He used to play drums for Walls Jericho, Dustin. I was watching his Instagram the other day, but he's got tour dates with that band that he's doing with Corey.
Tour dates?
Yeah. And their shows are getting sold out quick, so they're like bumping them to outside venues. So
cool.
I think there'll be a lot of that going on, a lot of juggling. But because there's been no live shows, I think it's going to be the exact opposite of when things really can go back to pretty much normal. I think entertainment's going to be like people are going to blow their money, and like
I can't wait.
They just want to have fun. They're talking about it's like post-war, the rip-roaring 20s. As soon as you're done with people being, I hate to use the word oppressed, but like post-war, everyone is happy. Things are done. You go out. So I think this people being stuck inside and COVID and everything, people just want to socialize. They're scared to what you think, vaccine, non-vaccine. But I think once things calm down and either vaccinations go up or just whatever, herd mentality, whatever you believe in, doesn't matter. I don't care. I don't want to hear about it. But when it goes back to normal, or whatever that normal will be, everyone says when things go back to normal, what you think is normal will never be the normal.
Never.
It won't be anymore. There will be people who will wear masks outdoors.
Oh, for sure.
For the rest of their lives, because they're just terrified. You do you, man. Like, do what you gotta do.
To each their own, man. Let me do me.
So,
I'm gonna let you do you, brother.
I think after all this is quote unquote done, I think the entertainment will thrive because it hurt it so bad. I think the exact opposite's gonna happen. It's just gonna be tours just booked nonstop. Venues are gonna book shows every night. It's just gonna be back to like when you're in high school. You could show up to Chain Reaction. I would show up and not even know if my friends would be there, but I know the band was playing, so I would know people there, and you just show up and there's a show every damn night.
Hell yeah.
I think it might go back to that.
That's sick.
I can only hope.
Hey man,
Yeah.
I'm hoping for it. I know I can't wait to see you guys when you go play any show. If it's on tour, if it's just some random one-off, I'm gonna be there for it. I'm super excited. And I just wanted to thank you so much for your time, man. Thank you for coming on here. Where can people follow you on social media? Any shout outs? Obviously, I want to tell everyone to pick up You Will Be the Death of Me June 25th on Nuclear Blast. And then get merch, get everything you can. And when the doors open up, come see them. But where can people follow you?
This is the big record, so this is the one that makes or breaks us as a band.
Let's go!
I would like to continue doing this for a living, and I have a lot of things I like to do outside the band, but doing the band enables me to do them. So I like to travel. I still like to play shows. I really couldn't see myself doing anything else still.
Yeah.
Socials, Light the Torch on Instagram. And then I personally, my only social I have is my Instagram. It's Womby__ Hellmerica. Mm-hmm. You just type my full name in there or whatever. But I post, the management label always asks us to post like personal stuff, what's going on. So I post a lot of like my camping and related stuff like that. So if you're into that kind of stuff, and then when I paint, I'm always posting that. And then as soon as I leave for tour, it just turns into tour shenanigans. And I'm not a very serious person, so I don't take myself seriously. So basically, it's me being an idiot, entertaining myself, and if I manage to make people laugh, then cool. If not, I'm
doing it for myself anyways. So keep myself entertained.
Well, I love following you, man. You do all the stuff that you're talking about. You show it. You know what I mean?
Man,
And it ain't too much. It's just, hey, look at me. I'm, camping here, shooting here.
Yeah, some things we keep personal, but
yeah, of course.
I know everyone wants to know what band. I mean, I still like watching tour DVDs of like what bands do on tour. That Black Dahlia Murder DVD, I think's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Like when what was I saying? I just passed a clip the other day. Like Bart on his skateboard with the plastic swords. Like we do that kind of shit all the time, but I will still find watching people's tour DVDs entertaining, even though it's exactly what I do. Mm-hmm. But everyone has different rituals. Everyone like light the torch, goes camping on our days off. And we go fishing and hiking. Like, we don't want to be near any cities. So, I mean, you just keep busy, and hopefully we'll be back out on the road. And I don't know, it still interests me, and everyone's stoked to see some shows. So, we're waiting around, just ready to go.
I'm ready, man. I know I'll be there. So, I want to thank you so much, man. Ryan Wombacher of Light the Torch and Bleeding Through. Thank you so much. And if you like what you're watching, then hop in the Koffin. Follow us on social media at Koffin Radio. Koffin is spelled with a K. And that's all for today.
KSFR Koffin Radio.